Welcome back here to Plead Your Case. I'm Tyler Zeman for the last pre-recorded episode of the semester before our live draft special next Wednesday. We have a full slate to get into. NBA playoffs are right around the corner, but the playing games are happening now. We had a few last night and a few tonight. We will break those down and then look at the playoffs and the first round matchups on Saturday and Sunday. For the second segment, we'll be introducing a new mini segment, which we'll get into more. And finally, we'll wrap it up with all-star games. And are they still entertaining? Stay tuned for that to see what our panel thinks on those right here on Plead Your Case. It's playoff time here for the NBA. We had playing games last night taking place on the western side of the bracket, and we'll talk about those playing games and the first round matchups here on the weekend. To break those down with me is Michael McKenzie and Scott Donnelly. But first, we will take a look at the bracket. On the west side, LeBron and company solidified their spot as the 7th seed. The Pelicans will host the Sacramento Kings in that first round, or in the first playing game, as the 8th seed to see who goes in. On the east side, it is the Heat and the 76ers, the Hawks and the Bulls in the 2 play-in matchups to see who will go in as the 7 and 8 seed on the east side of things. It is a stacked playoffs with a lot of big names. Scott, we'll go to you first. LeBron, they get it done. They're back in as the 7th seed. Thoughts on the playing games last night?
Well, to start with the Lakers, they're back in, but they get the unenviable prize of having to go against the Nuggets again. So that's what you get for winning this game. On the other side, we saw Golden State maybe as we know them for the last time. They're not the same team anymore. They're aging. Steph Curry's 36 years old. Klay Thompson doesn't seem to be able to shoot anymore, and that's unfortunate. So I was actually kind of expecting possibly to see Golden State move on and make perhaps another run with this core. I thought they got through this game and they might be able to advance a little bit. It's not going to happen for them. And at this point, I think the Warriors need to start considering starting all over again. I mean, you go back to Draymond Green, who misses half the season out because of behavioral issues? Do you go back to Klay Thompson because he can't seem to shoot anymore? He's had 2 horrific injuries and doesn't seem to be able to come back from them to the player he once was.
I mean, he came back from those injuries. He wasn't as as big of a part of that championship team in 2022 as he had been the previous 3 championships he won at Golden State. But 0 for 10 last night, not a single point to his name. That's just not the Klay Thompson we're used to. That's not the second half of the Splash Brothers that we became used to. As for the Lakers, I think that they, in a sense, dodged a bullet by winning that game because Zion Williamson. He had 40 points, 11 rebounds, exited that game late. He had a left leg injury. It's going to keep him out for 2 weeks if the Pelicans can even advance that far into the playoffs. But again, if they lose that game, they'd get a Sacramento Kings team that still isn't that well versed in playoff experience. They were there last year, but got bounced first round. Not well versed in playoff experience. And then the Lakers, you got guys like LeBron James, D'Angelo Russell, and Anthony Davis. You could win that game and go to play another unexperienced playoff team in the Thunder at the 1 seed. But I felt like they got away with that win last night with Zion Williamson going out. He was having an incredible game before that injury.
Yeah, he's a handful, and the poor guy can't seem to stay healthy. He worked hard. He was out of shape and worked hard to get back into shape. And just as it looks like he's starting to come into his own, he suffers this injury. Having said that, if you're relying on Brandon Ingram to pull you through this next game, I don't think it's going to happen. I kind of like Sacramento coming off the high of eliminating the Warriors, going on the road and winning that game. They're young and athletic, and maybe that inexperience in this type of situation is to their benefit.
Yeah, you're right.
I was going to say, who do you guys have in this matchup? Because it's a Pelicans team, as you guys have alluded to, a man down, but it's a Kings team that I think a lot of people fell in love with last postseason come the NBA playoffs. They were a team that haven't had a lot of success in recent years, and they were able to win a couple of series last year. Who do you have going in as the 8th seed?
I'm going to go with the Sacramento Kings. I think a lot of people forget that in that Game 6 against the Warriors, they were 1 missed 3 at the buzzer by Harrison or Barnes away from beating Golden State in 6 games at their building and moving on into the second round where I believe they would have played the Los Angeles Lakers. I think the Kings are going to get it done this time. Keegan Murray was spectacular last night, 32 points, on fire from three-point range. De'Aaron Fox is still one of the better clutch shooters in the league, and you got Domantas Sabonis, who's really good at manning the paint, manning the boards, and being a dominating force down low. That seems to be the key. When the Kings are successful in the playoffs the past 2 years, when they won their 3 games out of that 7-game series against the Warriors, Sabonis was a key part of that. He was a key part of the win last night. I think he's going to be a key part of this game against the Pelicans, especially with Zion Williamson being out.
Yeah, and it took a 50-burger from Steph Curry last year in the playoffs to vault them past the Kings. I think that's a learning experience, and I do like Fox really coming into his own here. So yeah, I'm going with them as well.
So we'll see what happens Friday night in that matchup. Tonight, though, on the Eastern side of things, we have the 7-seed 76ers and the 8-seed Miami Heat playing in the first window, and then followed by the number 9 seed, the Chicago Bulls, playing the 10-seed Atlanta Hawks. These games yet to be decided. Who do you guys see coming out of either of these matchups?
I'll leave it to you, Scott.
I like the Hawks over the Bulls. I like this DeJounte Murray. He seems to be a baller. I just don't buy into the Bulls. The Bulls seem to have some depth, but no real superstar player. DeMar DeRozan's a nice player. Levine's a nice player. Kobe White. But none of them are the guys to me that feel like move the needle for playoff wins. So I'll take the Hawks in that game. And who was the other one we were talking about?
76ers.
76ers.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the 76ers, they're coming in hot here. Embiid missed a big chunk of the season. They won their 8 games coming in. I like them. I think they're going to be a tough out for any team. And if they win this, I believe they will move into the 2nd seed against the Knicks. Was that how?
Yes.
Yes. The winner goes straight to the 7th seed.
Correct.
The loser will play for that 8th seed against the winner of the 9-10.
I like Philadelphia to move on and give the Knicks all they can handle to. But I like both the Hawks and the 76ers to win.
I'm going to go with the Hawks as well. You mentioned Trae Young, DeJounte Murray. They're experienced and versed in the playoffs. And then, you're right, the Bulls don't have that superstar. You can say DeMar DeRozan is kind of a superstar, but he's not a playoff performer. His days in Toronto showed us that. He hasn't had the chance to show that in Chicago yet, but I think that's what we're going to get from DeMar DeRozan tonight. Not necessarily a playoff riser, if you will.
More of a second option kind of guy.
I agree. If you had him on the second option of a playoff team, I'd love DeMar DeRozan. He's the first option. I don't think it's going to get the job done tonight. Sixers, Heat. I love the Sixers. They're coming in hot. Embiid's healthy. Maxi's playing well. I think the Heat are going to get it done because Jimmy Butler is one of the best, if not the best, playoff performer in the league. Coming off of that run last year, he did it the year prior as well when the Heat were the 1 seed and lost in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals to the Celtics. That was 2022. 2023, he takes them from the play-in. They were the 8th seed entering the tournament, beat the Bucks in 5 games. They beat the Knicks in 6 games, I believe. They ended up beating the Celtics in 7 games, almost blew a 3-0 lead, but they didn't. They beat the Celtics in 7 games to go to the finals as the 8th seed, and it was all really because of Jimmy Butler. I think he's going to step right back into the spot he was exiting last year. Great playoff performer. He's going to come into his own again. This is his element. This is Jimmy Butler's element, and I think we're going to see Jimmy Buckets come back for the Heat and for the rest of the NBA to enjoy.
Okay, enough with the play-in. What are the 2 teams you have coming to the NBA Finals? Out of the West and out of the East. We're going straight to the Finals now. From play-in to the Finals, who do you see making it and representing their conference?
Boy, this is really boring, but I'm going with the top seed, Celtics. Okay. And I kept thinking all along I was going to go with Milwaukee, but Milwaukee, I think there's a lot of pressure on Damian Lillard to perform. He and Giannis, I don't think quite clicked as much as we thought they would this year. They're a 3 seed. Philadelphia does scare me. I think they can beat the Knicks. I think they can move on, but I don't think Philadelphia gets past the Celtics. They're just too loaded. And honestly, the Celtics have as much pressure on them, and Jason Tatum, maybe more than any star in the NBA right now, has as much pressure on to perform and at least get to the finals than anyone, because we've watched this kid, and every year we think this is going to be their year. They're finally there to get over the hump, and it hasn't happened. And this year, to set the bar by leading the NBA in wins, which I believe they did.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, it's all the pressure's on them to perform this season. So from the East, I hate being so predictable and going with the top seed, but I'm going to. I think the Celtics are going to make it to the
Sometimes
finals.
it happens.
Yeah.
Out of the West, Scott?
Out of the West, I like Denver.
Okay.
I know Oklahoma City's the top seed, but I'm not picking them for playoff success here. I think once the lights really come on, the champs are going to be hard to dethrone altogether for the Western Conference.
Mike,
Right.
your finals matchup?
Eastern Conference, I'm the same as Scott. I hate to be the predictable guy, but I'm going with the Boston Celtics. And I agree with you. I think the Celtics have the two stars heading into the playoffs that have the most pressure on them. Number one, Jason Tatum. Number two, Jaylen Brown. Those two have the most pressure on them out of any, not just superstar, but player heading into the playoffs. They've got to get it done this year. If they don't get it done this year, then you start to question when is it going to get done for the Celtics in terms of winning the Eastern Conference and winning the NBA Finals. I will say I have the Sixers being the 8th seed. And taking the Celtics to 7 games in the first series, that's the farthest the Celtics go in the playoffs. I have the Western Conference. I have the defending champion Nuggets getting bounced in the second round by the Phoenix Suns. I think the Suns match up better with the Nuggets than any team. They've given them the most trouble throughout the season. I think they do it again. That game goes 7 games. That series goes 7 games. Suns win that. I think the Suns, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, my favorite trio in the league, I think they make it to the NBA Finals. But I think the Celtics eventually, this has to be the year they get it done. I'm going to say Jason Tatum finally gets his championship. He wins, his team, they beat the Suns in 6 games to win.
So you're taking the Celtics?
I'm taking the Celtics.
Scott, your champion real quick?
You know, I agree that the Suns are the one team that can beat Denver, but they're not going to. We have a repeat. Nuggets over Suns.
Nuggets.
Okay, well, that'll do it for the NBA segment and the NBA playoffs for us here on Plead Your Case. Stay tuned because we have the new mini segment next.
Sports information and athletic communication majors here at Waynesburg University take on the responsibilities of the pros. As a sports information athletic communication major, you'll take on tasks such as talking to coaches, public address announcing, tracking and spotting live stats, as well as running those stats to the TV and radio announcers and keeping the crowd occupied with the live video board. We have alum currently working for the Washington Wild Things, Akron Rubber Ducks, the Miami Dolphins, and numerous Division I programs. So what are you waiting for? Come here and join us at WU.
Ten debates, 10 minutes. This is 10 and 10, our new mini segment here on Plead Your Case. Here's how it will work. The host, myself, will introduce a topic. Both panelists will have 30 seconds each to debate their side. After the first 30 seconds is up, the other panelist will give their take on the topic in 30 seconds. At the end of the round, the host, myself, will anonymously pick a winner, and then we will move on to the next topic. The person who wins the most rounds out of the 10 will win the debate. If there is a tie at the end of 10 rounds, we will get an 11th topic, and we'll base the winner off of that one. If the panelists have the same side, the host will pick who has the better argument, and a winner will be awarded off of that. 10 and 10 will feature some of the most pressing and fiery debates in sports. Today, we will find out who has the better takes between Scott Donnelly and Michael McKenzie. Michael McKenzie, you are up first. The first topic of the discussion is, will Tiger Woods win another major? Your 30 seconds starts now.
I think the simple answer is no. His injuries have just caught up to him. That 2019 Masters run was magical, but nowadays it's tough for him to physically get through 4 rounds of golf, 4 days of playing 18 holes. He made the cut in the Masters this year, which was awesome, and then those last 2 days were just atrocious. It's not the Tiger we were used to seeing. His injuries have caught up to him. He physically cannot finish 4 rounds. He barely can finish 4 rounds of golf, let alone play well enough to win another major.
All right, that is time. Scott, your rebuttal to that.
Yeah, I don't have a hard difference of opinion here because I do think Tiger is done. At this point, you're lucky to see him play more than 2 rounds. I'm going to say a little bit further. Let's assume Tiger didn't break the leg and have 100 back surgeries. I think right now the talent has caught up. Even if Tiger was healthy, you're having to go out every weekend and try to beat Scottie Scheffler, who at this point is one of the rising stars and the best in the game, along with Rahm and the others on the tour.
All right, that'll do it for segment number 1. Moving on to topic number 2. Scott, you'll go first. Here, are the new NFL rules a good thing? We all know them. We all have heard about them over the past couple of weeks. Your take starts now.
Until I see the kickoff rule, I don't really... It's hard for me to say. I think that the new kickoff rule, that whole thing seems a little weird. When we talk about the hip drop tackle, that is the one that I think they should have taken more consideration with what the players say. I don't like that rule. I understand you're trying to protect the players. It's similar to the horse collar, and you're trying to keep guys from breaking their legs. But this is a physical sport. That's what you're there for, to go out and play tackle football.
All right, Scott, your time is now up. Michael McKenzie, let's hear it.
I think they went 2 out of 3. There's the third challenge. That one's going to kind of fly under the radar if your first 2 challenges are successful. That may kind of slow the game down a little bit, but I like that one. I like the kickoffs. Could make things more interesting, more fun, more action in special teams, and kind of prevents injuries. But the hip drop tackle, I just think that that's a boneheaded decision by the NFL. The players, former players and current, are saying that this is stupid. This is how we were taught to tackle. We were taught as offensive players to have to deal with this. Defensive players, this is how you chase somebody down. I think we're getting closer to playing flag football.
Your time is up. All right. Great debate so far. Up next, the third topic. McKenzie, you'll go first. Should the pitch comm system in Major League Baseball be banned? Should we just go back to using regular signs? Your take now.
No. I think the pitch comm system has been beneficial. I get that shortstops can see the sign, second baseman can still see the catcher throwing down a sign, but it's easier for those guys to determine what the pitcher and the catcher want to do. It's quicker for the pitcher and catcher to determine what they want to throw instead of having to go through 5-6 signs just for the pitcher to shake his head no and wave you off. And especially in the era of the pitch clock, you need to know quickly defensively what you want to do, what the pitcher and catcher want to do on a specific pitch. The pitch comm system
Your time is up. All right, Scott.
Yeah, you kind of stole my answer on that one, because with the pitch clock, I don't see a need to go back to flashing the signals. Plus, the Houston Astros ruined all that for everybody anyway. They're in there banging on trash cans and using cameras because they can physically see the signals being given. It's not like the old days where you had to try to crack the code. So, of all the baseball changes that have been made the last several years, this is the one that bothers me the least.
Okay. All right, Scott, you'll go first. This one should be great. The most unbreakable record in sports. Go ahead.
There's a lot, I think, that are going to be way out of reach, but I cannot see anybody at any time in any era ever once again hitting 56 games in a row like Joe DiMaggio did. When he did this in 1941, it was already a big enough feat. But today, you have reliever after reliever coming out of the pen throwing 100 miles an hour. It is a specialized game. You're not seeing a pitcher more than 2 at-bats at a time. And plus, with the travel of the modern-day game, you'll never see 56 games be broken.
McKenzie, your most unbreakable record in sports history starts now.
I don't think a pitcher is breaking Cy Young's wins record of 511. You mentioned kind of the reason. You're not going through the order more than 3 times. So many relief pitchers are coming in. The game's specialized. You're bringing in relievers for certain matchups. All the different strategic ways that players are pitching or teams are pitching now. No starter is ever going to get to 511 again. And the closest to it already is 94 wins away in Walter Johnson. Nobody's getting close to that because of the strategic differences in the game then compared to the game now.
All right. Time's up for you, Mr. McKenzie. The best sports league and why? Michael, you'll go first. Your time begins now.
It's easily the NFL. I think baseball is my favorite sport, but it's the NFL. They draw more viewers. There's more drama and more intrigue on a game-by-game basis, and I think they do a better job than any league with their off-season branding, the free agency, the trades, the draft. The schedule reveal is an entire week-long thing for the NFL. Training camp, they do such a good job with not only their in-season stuff, the dramatics of that, but also the off-season and how they promote their league when they're not even playing games.
All right, that'll do it for you. Scott, the best sports league and why?
I think the NFL has the best game, but I think they are ruining it by putting it on Amazon, by watering down Monday Night Football, where you're not even getting the top game of the week any longer, by having games in Europe where the fans are having to watch their games at 9 o'clock in the morning. I think the NBA is the one that does the best job of marketing their players and making everything more accessible to their fans. So for that reason, I'm going to say football's the better game, the NBA has the better league.
All right. You still have 5 seconds.
And they have the better league.
All right, time. Okay. All right. Up next, Big Ben, Drew Brees, or Phillip Rivers. I'm assuming, which one do you like the most?
Yes.
Scott, you'll go first.
I'm going to eliminate Phillip Rivers because he never won a championship. I'm going to eliminate Roethlisberger because one of his championships came when he threw for like 13 yards in the Super Bowl. Brees is the all-time passing leader. He won the Super Bowl. He had many good years with Sean Payton. I always thought Big Ben's skill was being huge, shaking off guys that were about to tackle him and throwing to guys who were wide open. I think Breeze was a better overall passer, more accurate, better placement of the ball.
All right. That'll do it. McKenzie?
I think Big Ben was more physically gifted and more skilled. He had the better arm. He's pretty close. He's kind of close to Breeze, relatively close in all his career records, and he played 38 less games. In their era, that's over 2 full seasons. He has the same number of game-winning drives. He was just as clutch of a quarterback. I know you said he didn't play well in that first Super Bowl, but he still got 2 Super Bowl championships, made 3. You could argue that he should have won 3 if his running back didn't fumble the ball away against the Packers. He was a more clutch quarterback, in my opinion, more physically gifted, and only played 2 less seasons.
All right, round number 7. Michael McKenzie, you'll lead us off first. Should college athletes be paid? Go ahead.
Easily, yes. I mean, at least D1 athletes, specifically in the SEC and the Big Ten and those conferences like that, those athletics, those games are promoted professionally. There's TV deals, sponsorships, all those millions of dollars flowing into the university because of these athletes and the people that want to see their games on the field. So those athletes should get the compensation. I don't know if they deserve to get paid 10-year, $700 million contracts like professional sports, but they deserve the compensation because their sport is promoted professionally.
That's it. All right. Scott, your response to should college athletes be paid?
Well, I think they already were being paid previously. They were getting the scholarship. They were getting the free education. The actual money itself, maybe they should have gotten some type of stipend, but having them go out and just now turn college sports into free agency has completely ruined the game. You don't have the loyalty to the school. And I know there's not loyalty in pro sports, but that's what this is becoming now. It's becoming pro sports. I like the old school way of you get a guy and you get 3 or 4 years out of them. So don't pay them.
All right, time's up for you. Up next, round number 8, we're going to the NHL. Crosby or Ovechkin? Scott, you'll lead us off. Go ahead.
Well, and this is the one I have to go with the homer pick. I'm a Sidney Crosby guy. I know Ovechkin is a scoring monster and he has a lot of power, but Sidney Crosby to me has always been able to affect games even when he's not scoring points. Just the way he sets his teammates up, the way he plays on the ice, his placement, and his leadership. Ovechkin, obviously a great player, but I'm going Sid the Kid all day long.
All right. McKenzie?
I think in their prime, Sidney Crosby was a better player because you said it, he affects the game in more ways than just putting the puck in the back of the net. But as they've aged, you can see a bit of a decline in Ovechkin's play. I'm not sure you could see as significant of a decline in Crosby's play as those two have aged and gone through their careers in the NHL. I mean, just this season alone, I feel like we've heard Sidney Crosby's names far more because he's done far more for his team in trying to get them into the playoffs than the Capitals. I know the Capitals made the playoffs, but it's a team game. It takes more than one player to make the playoffs. Crosby affects the game.
All right, that's it.
And more cups for Sid. Sorry.
Whoa, easy there, Scott. I don't want to have to deduct points now, all right? Come on. You're ruining the flow here.
I think
You're ruining the flow here.
I think points need to go.
Hey, what?
Broke the rules.
I'll take some points from you too, buddy. All right, here we go. Number 9. Has the universal designated hitter in Major League Baseball, has it been a good thing or a bad thing? Should the DH be banned? You started last time, Scott, so we'll go Michael first. Go ahead.
Yes, it's a great thing. I know that pitchers hitting gave us some great moments and great highlights and all that, but it's not needed. And the other thing to this is lineups can be put together and fielding arrangements can be put together more strategically because you used to have to put guys in the field that are terrible defensively and don't have a good glove just because they were one of the better cleanup hitters in the league. My most recent example was Josh Bell in 2019. Really bad defender, but one of the best bats in the league. Now you can put him in DH and not have to risk bad defense.
Whoa. That's it. That's time. Scott, go ahead.
I was not a fan of the DH coming to the National League until the COVID season hit. I like the uniqueness of having one league with it, one league without it, but that didn't really make much sense. But if we're going to make a little bit of progress with the sport of baseball, the DH needs to stay where it is and have it standard because it's become such a specialized game. What do I need to see a pitcher go up there and struggle to lay down a bunt or go up there and take 3 pitches down the middle without even swinging? So I'm all for the DH at this point.
All right, time is up. 10th and final round. Will the college football playoff extended format be successful? I know it's going to expand in the future, but we'll just talk about the 12-team format right now as it's going to be. Scott, you'll lead us off here. Is it going to be a success?
I've always felt like college needed to have more teams invested. the more the better. I mean, you look at March Madness, you got 68 teams involved, and it's anybody's game. Now, obviously, as you go along, the cream rises to the top. Well, that's where we're at here. If we're going with the top 12, you legitimately have teams that may have had some injuries through the season and they're playing their best football at the end of the season to get into this playoff. So for me, I always thought that the top 2 playing just wasn't enough, or even the
All right, that'll do
+1.
it. Michael McKenzie, go ahead.
I mean, yes, because it not only gives us more college football, it puts playoff games on campuses. They've always been on neutral sites at bowl games, and while I like that unique aspect of it, bowl season is a big part of college football's culture. Having some playoff games on campuses, getting that environment, students going to playoff games, screaming their head off, everything that comes with a playoff game on campus, you're going to see atmospheres tenfold what we see in the regular season. It gives more money into the sport, and you're right, it puts a spotlight on more teams.
All right, that'll do it for you. And Logan Arblaster, you're going to have to get to thinking for this 11th topic, because as my paper stands, I think we're at an even split, 5-5. Let me just count them up real quickly. Yes, we are. So we're going to need one more topic, because I'll say this, Michael McKenzie, you snagged it there at the end. I loved the college football going back to campuses. It's a great argument right there.
Pretty good.
Say that one more time. Okay, here we go. Number 11, Cowboys or Steelers? Michael McKenzie.
Wait, we need context to this. All time or current?
All time. All time, yes. In my ear, all time.
All time.
Cowboys, Steelers, you'll lead us off.
Steelers have more
Go
Super
ahead.
Bowl championships. They don't have as long of a drought making it to the conference championship game. They have a more illustrious history in the Hall of Fame. They have been more transcendent for the sport, specifically with how they have recruited players and going to the HBCU to find a new crop of NFL talent that completely transcended the game. The Rooney Rule completely transcended how we hire coaches and go about hiring staffs. They have more Super Bowl championships. They don't have that drought. They're not as big of a laughing stock or a meme on social media either as the Cowboys.
That's it. All right, Scott.
I feel like I was set up to lose with this question because the Cowboys have not had any success for 28 years and counting. However, you Google America's team and what do you get? You get the Dallas Cowboys, despite the fact that they have not won. And let's not act like they haven't had any success. They had 5 Super Bowls is nothing to sneeze at. And the fact that they are the highest rated team in year out. They're the team that gets the most attention and the most love. And an owner who has had much more impact than your silly little Rooney family over there in Pittsburgh.
That's it. Wow, what an 11 rounds. I'll say that. I don't know about you guys, but I had fun up here myself in this new mini segment, 10 for 10. I am going, it was very tight because you both battled very hard and you guys are great competitors, all right? So, yeah, round of applause for those two because they crushed it up here. I am going to have to give it to Michael McKenzie by an edge because the Rooney Rule. I mean, you crushed it there at the very end, except Jerry Jones, I don't know. He won't pay his athletes.
Fail on that one.
What I also want to say is when you Google America's team, you see the Dallas Cowboys, but when you do a little more research, the Steelers were offered that title first.
Oh, what? Spoken like a Steeler fan. Spoken
I
like
am a Steelers
Yinzer.
fan. I bleed black and gold, and I'm not afraid.
All right. That'll do it for us on 10 for 10. Or 10 in 10, sorry, a new mini segment here on Plead Your Case. Congratulations to Michael McKenzie for taking the first one. When we come back, our All-Star game's still entertaining. We'll see what they have to think.
This is some spice. Cornucopia.
Ryan instead of train.
Welcome back for our third and final segment here on Plead Your Case. We're talking about All-Star games and the 4 major sports leagues and their All-Star games / weekends as a whole. And are they still entertaining? We're going to figure out which one our panelists think are the favorites. So if you want to take a look on that screen, Scott, we'll start with you. Out of the 4 up there, who do you think does it best when it comes to All-Star games?
Well, I'm going to scratch the NFL off because
Okay.
they are, I believe, undoubtedly the worst. And they try to do something a little bit different this year with the flag football. And I watched that for like 5 minutes, but it's not good. It's really not good.
Not your cup of tea.
Not my cup of tea. I have two different answers for this, in that I think that the NBA All-Star Weekend is the best of the 4 sports. I like the dunk contest, the celebrity, although the dunk contest has lost a little bit of its luster, but the skills competition, the 3-point shootout, they had the male-female shootout this year. It was a different twist. The game itself leaves a lot to be desired because there's no defense. It's just alley-oops and sloppy play. When it comes to the actual game, I think Major League Baseball is the game that most is similar to the real game. It's most similar to the real sport. You're not playing defense in the NHL. You're not playing defense in the NBA. In Major League Baseball, you're still going to try to hit the ball whenever you're up to the plate, and you're still going to try to catch it and make plays in the field. So I think it's the most similar to the actual game, but I think the NBA All-Star Weekend is just like the way that the celebrities converge on it. It's like a giant celebrity party for the whole weekend, and I like that what they do, even with their futures games and rookie games and celebrity games, all that stuff. So I think the NBA has the best of the weekends.
I am going to go with baseball as the best game too. It's the most competitive. I liked it better when the All-Star game was for essentially home field advantage in the World Series. That put a little more on the line, made the All-Star game even more competitive, and it drew viewers in. It made more people watch, especially fans of teams that have been having good seasons, were contenders for the playoffs, and therefore contenders for the World Series. I like that. I don't think it's terrible that they took it away, but I also think in general baseball is the best weekend. I'm not a massive fan of the whole celebrity party that happens in the NBA. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just not my favorite necessarily. You're right. The dunk contest has absolutely lost steam. I mean, I think it's because there's a lot less to happen creatively, because what we want to see in the dunk contest is creativity, and there's less room for it. I feel like 95% of potential dunks have happened.
Yeah, you can only jump over a guy or jump over a car so many times. Yeah.
Or jump over a 5'3" streamer in a seat however many times. Shout out Jaylen Brown. But I like the 3-point contest. The skills competition is slowly losing steam already because it's being taken less seriously. At least that's the vibe I got from it this year. The futures game with the MLB, that's competitive as well. You get a chance to see all these prospects that we talk about in the trade deadline that are going to get dealt for big-time players that we talk about in spring training, in the offseason, that fans are supposed to get excited about. We get to see some of those guys showcased. The home run derby is absolutely electric, and then the game itself is easily the most competitive out of the 4 major sports. I think the MLB is the only team that is still really doing All-Star Weekend kind of the right way. But again, losing that home field advantage, in my opinion, is something that they did that lost a little bit of steam of the All-Star game for me.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the MLB does it the best, but partially for me, I think it's because the lack of sporting events that are actually taking place in the middle of summer. I think that is one of the key reasons why the MLB All-Star game and their 3-day kind of stretch is more highlighted for me. So how do these leagues go about, because you both mentioned your least favorites and ones that need more work, how do they go about it, making it more of an experience for the fans, making it more enjoyable? Because these players seem to enjoy it a lot. They get to congregate, you bring the best in the world to one spot, but how do you bring those fans in? Because at the end of the day, it's all about the money.
I think the NBA, what they do, and what the NFL, I believe, does also with the flag football Pro Bowl game and all that stuff, they allow fans into practices. There's autograph sessions, so you draw in revenue that way. You draw in a little bit of fans are kind of coming in for those autograph sessions and things like that. You're drawing in revenue those ways. But in the game itself, in football, you're not going back to physical football. With modern science and all the developments we've had there, the increased risk of injury in a completely meaningless game for these players. As much as I love all-star games, essentially when you have them at the end of the season, they're kind of meaningless, especially in the NFL. NBA, I don't think there's anything you can do. The way the game is played, even in regular season style, there's no way you're going to be able to get effort from these guys outside of trying to hit a highlight alley-oop dunk or a half-court or a 35-foot three-point jump shot 3 possessions in a row. Mm-hmm. I think those 2 leagues are beyond saving. NHL, I think they're the second best. They have the skills competition. They have drawn a little bit of celebrity attention into their All-Star Weekend, not necessarily to the level of the NBA like you mentioned, Scott, but a little bit of celebrity attention. Their game, it's not necessarily as competitive as the MLB, but you see a little bit of competitive edge from times in different spots of the NHL. I think they're the second, but the NBA and the NFL, in my opinion, are beyond saving of what they used to be 10, 20 years ago.
Well, one disadvantage that the NFL has, other than the fact that you're paying these guys too much and you can't put them at risk, is that it comes after the playoffs. It typically was after the Super Bowl, but now I think they might play it in the week between. And at that point, we really don't care about that anymore. With these other games are in the middle of the season, you're taking a break from competition, giving your guys a little bit of a breather. But when you get to the end of the NFL season, these guys are beat. They don't want anything to do with this sport anymore. Not now. And neither do the fans. They're focused on the Super Bowl. How can you get excited to watch a flag football game when you know that the big prize that you've been waiting all season for is just coming up the following Sunday? And that's the Super Bowl has become like a national holiday. So there's no way you're going to get a Pro Bowl or anything, I think, involved with the NFL. If you're there, if you're holding it and you go to it, then again, you want the players meeting kids, signing autographs, taking pictures. That's the way to get better interest in that. And if you're going to make the NBA or NHL product any better, you're going to have to pay them more. You have to incentivize them somehow. And these guys already are making so much money that they don't care. They enjoy going out because they're friends now. Yeah. These guys are all friends. They play AAU ball. They grow up together and then they play all these games and they're friends. And they're not going to go out there and battle one another over a $10,000 check. You're going to have to really pay them to try to incentivize them to really care about this game. And I don't know that can be done at this point.
Yeah, you said it kind of best there. You can't really add much more to incentivize it. They've tried to add it where the winning team, the MVP, gets so much money and they can donate to a charity of their choice. But at the end of the day, that money is not going directly to them. They can obviously support great causes through that, and that's what these 4 major sports leagues want to see is more community outreach as well in that. But there's only so much you can do. We'll go to the favorites. What is one thing you want to see them add? I mean, you talked about the dunk contest. Is there any other skills competitions? Is there anything that your favorites can add to just separate them even more?
With baseball, they've tinkered with the home run derby several times through the years, and I thought they got it right last year. The way they had that set up. As far as the NBA, I don't know that you can save the actual game itself. I liked the shootout, the man versus woman shootout that is. It was Steph Curry and I forget the young lady's name.
Sabrina
was Ionescu.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So. I thought that was a success. I thought that worked out really well. Maybe expand a little bit more of that, especially now you got women's game is coming in on a high. Incorporate them a little bit more. If you had a couple teams, Steph Curry and Ionescu against Caitlin Clark and James Harden or whoever else.
We'll go Damian Lillard. I think
Damian Lillard.
I heard a couple rumors about them doing Caitlin Clark and Sabrina versus Damian Lillard and Steph, or Klay Thompson and Steph. But I'll tell you what, after last night, Klay Thompson, you're not allowed anywhere near a three-point contest the rest of your career. We appreciate what you did for the game and your three-point shooting in the past. Your time has come.
Yeah, he's a Clank brother now at this point.
Clank brother. I like that one.
But I think something like that maybe would just give you a little bit of, would freshen up the NBA weekend just a little bit more. The dunk contest, man, I hate to see it go away, but there's just so much you can do at this point. Unless you raise the hoop to 15 feet and give them a trampoline and see what you can do from there. I don't know.
I don't know if I'd be opposed to that necessarily, but you're right. I mean, I tried to say it earlier. The creative, the room for creativity has just diminished so much. I think that the 2 best dunk contests we've had in the last decade and a half in 2016 and 2020, in the long term, were almost detrimental because now that's the standard we've set. And it's way too high of a standard to meet time and time again because they were 2 of the best dunk contests of all time. How are we going to meet best of all time standards every single year? And the fans want that creativity. There's less room for it. The fans want best of all time every single time they try to take the dunk contest. That's just not going to happen. It's unrealistic. It's the standard that those 2 years set for that contest that almost ruined it, in my opinion.
Well, that'll do it for us here, and we'll see where these 4 major sports leagues go with their All-Star games and weekends in the future. For Scott Donnelly, Michael McKenzie, I'm Tyler Zeman saying so long on this episode of Plead Your Case. But stay tuned, because next Wednesday, right here on the WCTV YouTube page, we will have the live draft special, everything from the NFL draft to NBA, NHL, and much, much more in that 2-hour action-packed episode from 6 to 8 p.m. For Tyler Zeman and all of us here behind the scenes at WCTV, we say thank you for watching and have a good night.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.